When I say the word speedrun, which game do you think of? There's several thousand answers to that question, but there's one that the overwhelming majority of you will think. Super Mario 64, the undisputed king of speedrunning, with over 25,000 runners and an extremely active community kept afloat by streamers like BizKiff, Clit Stevens, and the former 120-star world record holder, Simply. A lot of the traction of Super Mario 64 was and is deserved, as it mastered the addictive, easy to pick up, hard to master style of gameplay, involving a deep understanding of map structure and mechanics, numerous hours of practice, and very little luck. Naturally, people are going to flock to a game that has skill-based gameplay and an obscenely competitive scene. Strictly speaking about skill, TikTok Clock, or TTC, is one of the hardest levels to master, requiring pinpoint jumps and landings, long jumps, side flips, etc. But more or less, unlike any other levels, TTC is played more linearly to the game's design, which is precisely why it's so challenging to most, as you can't do a Dance Dance Revolution levels equivalent for your fingers and get several stars in return like in most other levels. This was true from the conception of Mario 64 speedrunning all the way up to September of 2013, when this happened in a run from Dota Teabag.
What the? Did
you get invisible walls?
What?
Please say you got invisible.
No, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
If you're a Mario 64 veteran, you know that looked strange. If you're not, it probably also looked strange, but far be it from me to say it wasn't. But so did speedrunners back when it happened, specifically a well-known Mario 64 runner at the time, Panenkoic 2012, who, after seeing Dota's run, immediately put up a $1,000 bounty on the glitch. For those of you who don't know, in the speedrunning world there are tricks or glitches that can occur mid-run that have never been seen before, and if somebody sees potential in the glitch to save time, a cash reward can be put up for somebody to find a consistent way to replicate it, hence the term bounty. And in this context, a random upwarp occurred. For Mario to perform an upwarp, he needs to be able to clip and grab the top of a wall connecting to a ceiling. How about we let Panenkoic himself explain?
This glitch occurs when Mario is below a hangable ceiling and jumps into a lower adjacent ceiling. When this happens, the game recognizes that Mario is both below a hangable ceiling and just jumped into the ceiling above him. So the game mixes together the properties of these two ceilings, thinks Mario jumped into a hangable ceiling, and thus puts him at the height of the hangable ceiling, at which point he can then swing around. So you can do this at any hangable ceiling that has a setup like this.
But in Dota's run, he was nowhere near one, and this is precisely why the random upwarp gained so much notoriety so quickly. That paired with the $1,000 reward, of course. And as we all know, speedrunners are not rich, so they immediately jumped on the bounty, trying to crack the code in a greasy battle royale for money. The very next day though, Panenkoic sat in his chair at home, garbed in his fluffy piss-yellow robe, drinking a 1998 Charlatan Pinot Noir, mentally clawing for an answer. When Eureka, he thought, I have an amazing idea! And thus the bit switch hypothesis was formed. Keep that in mind, we'll talk about that more later. TAS, contrary to popular belief, does not stand for total ass sucking. No. It stands for tool assisted speedrun. A TAS is essentially a speedrun where hacking is permitted, where the rules allow you to use a software or machine to play the game for you, with a user inputting movement frame by frame and then playing it like an animation. Days after Panenkoic put the bounty up, Dane, an active member in the TAS community, made a program that allowed for video to be played perfectly over TAS software, allowing the development of frame-perfect recreations of runs with ease. And in this case, a frame-perfect run of Dota's Warp, which would allow for the analysis of the properties of the game in each given frame, giving a far deeper understanding into what happened in Dota's game during the Warp. Some poor soul sat down and recreated Dota's run frame by frame with a certainty that they'd get some kind of answer out of it. Hours upon hours of work they sunk into the TAS run, hope in their eyes and erections on full display, and when they finally created the portion of the upwarp, they couldn't do anything because it couldn't be recreated. They literally could not naturally replicate the warp that was in Dota's run, and thus no information was gained. So again, let's let Panenkoic describe the issue here.
Proceeding under the assumption that this is a new glitch, this would be the ideal plan. First, we reproduce the glitch. Using Mupen, we create an M64 file that captures the glitch happening. That way, we can replay the glitch anytime. Second, we analyze the glitch. Tyler Caney can play back the M64 file, walk through the game's code step by step, and determine exactly what part of the code is responsible for this happening. Through this process, he could determine exactly what causes it and what requirements need to be met for it to occur. Then finally, we exploit the glitch. If we know how to do it, then maybe we can redo it in other courses and scenarios. This could save time on tasks, save A presses on the A button challenge, and possibly give us insight on where to find more related glitches. Basically, it'll be pretty good. However, none of this can happen if we're still stuck on step number 1.
It may seem counterintuitive, but this was an extremely valuable piece of information, since if the warp couldn't be replicated by perfectly reconstructing the run with software, through process of elimination, it was deduced there had to be a situation with hardware that happened to Dota and Dota alone. June of 2018, Dane said fuck it and got Dota to send him the N64 and Mario cartridge so he could do a personal deep dive into the hardware of the device to find out if there were any deformities or game-enhancing devices that were put in to cause the warp. After casting his wine and robe aside to do the dirty work on the N64, after performing technological surgery for days, after digging for any semblance of an answer, Dane found it. No, not really, he didn't. He couldn't find anything that was out of place with the N64, and that was that. One could say,
Must have been the wind.
Actually, that may not be that far off. Let's re-examine Pan and Kowick's initial bit switch hypothesis and piece all of the information together to see how valid it is. To start, a bit switch is a change in a very small piece of data and hardware, in this case, Dota's N64. We can tell that the warp wasn't catalyzed by software since it couldn't be replicated in a frame-perfect task run. We also know that it happened out of the linear functionality of the N64 since Dane couldn't find anything off with the hardware. Therefore, it was individualized to Dota's N64, and it was caused outside of how the N64 was supposed to function.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
Fuck, I'm not doing that. The only reasonable answer as to what happened is that of a cosmic bit switch. Sounds like a Bloodborne boss, I know, but I promise it's a real thing, and to fully understand what a cosmic bit switch is and the chances of it happening, we need to dig into two things. The N64 is named so because it has a 64-bit operating system. To explain what a bit is in layman's terms, it's the simplest form of data in a computer. Imagine a tiny little switch that can turn on or off, 0 being off and 1 being on. 8 of those tiny bits make up a byte, 1000 bytes make up a kilobyte, 1000 kilobytes make up a megabyte, you get the picture. But what you need to understand is that there are a lot of bits in storage systems of computers. Different combination of these bits being on or off form everything that you may have saved or running on your computer. And that's where different forms of memory come in. In any electronic device, there's going to be two types of data storage, long-term memory and RAM, or short-term memory. For long-term memory, imagine the water faucet in your kitchen, always there holding all the water you need. And for RAM, imagine the water in a cup that you fill from the faucet, readily there for you to drink whenever you want. Your water system will always have what you need even when you're not using it, while the cup of water will constantly change as you drink it. When it comes to video games, the data or series of bits needed to run the game is stored in your long-term memory, and when you click the launch button, certain bits will move to the RAM in order to make the game function live. But pretty much all the moving parts in a game will be stored in the RAM as a very large amount of bits, which is what we'll be focusing on. When you launch Super Mario 64 specifically on an N64, the amount of RAM being used is 4.5 megabytes, which is 36 million bits. In all reality, that's not too much data. I mean, this image you're looking at takes up more space than that. Hell, most people even think in gigabytes now rather than megabytes, but keep in mind the number of bits that are being used. 36 million. For this next section, we briefly need to go to a drastically different setting than inside of a computer, but no, young one, it's not your mother's house. We need to go somewhere even she can fit. Fucking space. A bit more of a Super Mario Galaxy setting, if you will, but specifically we're going to be looking at a cosmic ray, a very high energy invisible laser shooting through space at the speed of light. Not scary sounding at all, right? It emits a large amount of celestial BO called cosmic radiation, a high-energy subatomic wave. I'm not going to act like I know what that is, but are you starting to put all the pieces together? Earth is under a constant stream of cosmic radiation from the sun, with everything on Earth being acclimated to it. But when exposed to higher levels than usual, cosmic radiation can do a number of things, damaging the heart, narrowing arteries, causing cardiovascular disease, and also interfering with microtechnology. And what's a form of microtechnology you were just informed on a moment ago? Jeff, you betcha, a bit. That's right, a bit can be flipped when exposed to enough cosmic radiation, appropriately dubbed a cosmic bit switch. But which bit that's flipped is up to discretion so microscopic that it's essentially up to chance. So up to chance, in fact, that statistically on your computer or phone or whatever you're watching this on, a cosmic ray will flip 4 bits per gigabyte of RAM per month, or in the case of an N64, 1 bit every 5.3 years. Despite the fact that the chances of you experiencing one is highly, highly unlikely, the chances are stacked even higher against you. Any modern computer nowadays has precautionary measures, be it hardware or software, that exists to spot when a cosmic bit switch occurs in your system and corrects it. So a cosmic bit switch may have occurred on your device before, you just not know it. But to put into perspective these metrics, let's say we have bits 1 through 1 trillion, and we're looking for a noticeable change to occur due to the cosmic bit switch. In most cases, a single bit being changed won't do much at all. It could simply move your cursor up by 50 pixels or close your Chrome window. So let's be generous and say that 25% of these individual bits would make a noticeable change in data. Statistically, we would have to wait several years or more of your device running uninterrupted for a cosmic bit switch to occur on one of these 1 trillion bits. We would also need the bit that switched to be in the 25% that would make a difference. Including the timing in which the switch would occur, that is a minimum, and this is being very generous in basic bitch terms, roughly like 1 in 10 trillion chance of happening. And that's before factoring in the correctional technology on computers that fixes the bit switches. And to put that into perspective, Dream's controversial run was a 1 in 177 billion chance, so you will most likely not experience one personally in your life. But what if I told you that the N64 did not have that correctional technology? Because that's exactly what happened in Dota Teabag's run in Mario 64, but his chances were significantly slimmer. In the hypothetical I just gave, we looked at the chances of getting a cosmic bit switch on at least 1 bit in a group of 25% of all of the bits. Dota's run involved getting a specific bit flipped at the specific part of the level, at the specific time of day, at the specific amount of sunlight hitting his house, and at the specific location he was related to Earth's rotation. All of that culminated in this change in data. Not complicated at all, right? Every single one of these circumstances led to that 5 being flipped to a 4. And this C4 just so happened to be the specific bit that determined Mario's height index on tick-tock clock alone. And the bit flipped at such a time that Mario was perfectly placed at the top of the level, right above the grating that would block him from doing so naturally. This is the only cosmic bit switch ever recorded and will likely be the last. The chances of that specific cosmic bit switch being carried out so perfectly are so low that it's considered impossible. So impossible, in fact, that Dota's run was invalidated from Speedrun.com, the main bastion for speedrunning scores and forums. The only other cosmic bit switch accurately recorded was one in a 2003 election in Belgium, and while tallying the results on a computer, the final results in the election were changed. The concept of a cosmic bit switch really wasn't well known at the time, so the staff thought it was a hack. If only they knew fate was a lot more against them than that. If you look up any of the people I've mentioned in this video, their channels will either be out of use or deleted, leaving them as fallen titans, only remembered in the memories of those who witnessed their achievements live. Existing only as memories of a golden age of running, Dota Teabag's run is one of, if not the most infamous run in all of Mario 64 speedrunning, or maybe even speedrunning in general. And though it is very well known, there's nobody we can ask nor any information we can gain on the subject anymore. So what can we do but leave the past to the past and carry on with our own future endeavors? Hey everyone, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button and subscribe as well, so hopefully we can grow this little community on my corner of the internet. If you're feeling extra spicy, you could also check out my Twitch in the description, because I stream on that, you know, sometimes, fuck you. But regardless, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and that's all I have to say. Peace.